get working on it tomorrow. Okay. I had this dream where we would get maybe 5 acres of land, and we would create Vrindavan on that, 5 or 10 acres. We would create Vrindavan, and then we would get a group of devotees who would live there. Of course, we'd need a sponsor, and we would enact all the leelas of Krishna and film them. So, maybe the last 10 years of our life, we were just absorbed in Krishna Leela. And then, for posterity's sake, the whole Bhagavatam would be in film, in a high quality, so that anyone who sees it would just experience different kinds of bhavs, even maybe not qualified to experience it, but it would be done so well that they would experience it. And Prabhupada said actors should be so good that the audience gets all the bhav, all the emotion. Oh yes. So as soon as the person comes with the money and the actors show up, we'll get started. We have the cameraman. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice just to see one Leela done like right? Like Krishna leaving Vrindavan. Oh my God, can you imagine that? Enact that scene as it's supposed to be. Done by Steven Spielberg or someone like that, like done right. Wow, oh my gosh. Because the problem is that we can't be free from emotion. And emotion has to be engaged in Krishna's service, otherwise emotion is still stolen away by mind. So we're supposed to feel all these emotions. You imagine Krishna's leaving Vrindavan, the gopis are rolling on the ground, in front of the cart, don't go, don't go. It's a very pitiful scene. And we're supposed to feel something, right? Yes? When we read these leelas, we're supposed to feel something, but sometimes we don't. Just like yesterday we were singing the Shashastakam, and the reason I put Shashastakam to music is so we could feel it. So were we feeling it yesterday? Were we feeling the bhav, Prabhu? Yeah. So sometimes we have to put it in a format where we can feel it. There's one time when Prabhupada was watching a play, they were enacting, I think it might have been Kidnapping of Rukmini, and it was done really well because all the actors were formerly professional actors before they were devotees. And after Prabhupada saw it, he said, "This is better than the books." So what did he mean? It was the bhava, the book that you're reading. But in the drama, the bhav, you can't miss the bhav in the drama. You can miss it in the book, but you can't miss it in the drama. So, we've been talking about chanting with feeling, with some bhav, and that's a very good place to put your feeling in. Krishna's name, Krishna's pastime. Right? You agree? So I wanted to continue reading from where we left off 2 days ago. You remember we were reading about Bhav, Aparad, the meaning of Aparad. Hare Krishna. Hear me now? Yes. Okay. Sorry. We were talking about how much emotion is in Krishna's Leela. I mean, just imagine you enact the Leela of Prahlad Maharaj, you do it right. And Prahlad Maharaj is being tortured, so you're watching this whole scene of him being tortured. And he's not retaliating. And he's just chanting. And he can't be killed. But one after another, his father's trying to kill him, which is, of course, heinous, worst kind of act. And after Prahlad Maharaj goes through all of that, Lord Nrsingadev says, "Let me give you a benediction." I don't want to ask anything. Lord Nrsingadev he begs Prahlad, well, ask something. Something, you must ask something. And then he says, yeah, well, okay, I want the benediction that I'll never ask for a benediction. They're trying to outsmart God. No, you have to ask something. Okay, liberate my father. Now, we've heard that story a million times, but if you put it in the context of what's actually happening, that is amazing. The person who tried to kill you like 8 times, you're praying for them. And if you do it right, we would actually get it, that that's what it means to be a devotee. This Prabhu stood in front of me during Darshan Arti. I'm so upset. I'm not coming to the temple anymore. That's us, isn't it? So, we sometimes don't get these things in Bhagavatam. They're there, but we don't get them. And so you put it in drama or a movie or music, maybe you get it a little deeper. Then these are important lessons that can kind of fly over our head. Here's another one. This is amazing. This is so amazing, and I'm sure this has flown over the heads of many. Ambarish Maharaj was cursed by Durvasa for the great offense that Ambarish drank water before he fed Durvasa. That's like serious offense. Imagine you invite some devotees over for lunch. And you're cooking, and you're hot and sweaty, and you drink a glass of water. And you say, oh my God, what an offense, you drank water. And I produce out of my mystic power a living entity who can kill you. Now, that's pretty heavy, right? Like that. I mean, if you want to be resentful, that's worthy of being resentful, right? That one. Isn't it? Somebody looks at you in the wrong way. That's not a good one. This is a good one, right? So, of course, Krishna protected Ambarish Maharaj. Krishna showed up with his Sudarshan Chakra, and his Sudarshan Chakra chased Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni went for shelter. He went to Vaikuntha within the material world, and he asked for protection from Vishnu. Vishnu said, I can't protect you, you've offended a devotee. So you have to ask for forgiveness. So he comes back, he was like, ask for forgiveness, Prabhu. No, I won't. Ask for forgiveness. No, I won't. Prabhu, if you don't, you'll be killed. Okay, I'm sorry. He was going to be killed if he didn't ask for forgiveness. So there was a lot of leverage there. I don't know how genuine it was, but he was going to die if he didn't ask for it. So he asked Ambarish Maharaj for forgiveness. And what does Ambarish Maharaj say? He didn't do anything wrong. He's like, no problem. Right? Is that amazing? What do you mean? He didn't do anything wrong. He tried to kill him. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Now, but what is even more amazing that you might have missed is that after he came back, he apologized. Ambarish says, there's no problem. And then he serves him breakfast. Right? Now, some devotee says something nasty to you, right? And for the rest of your life you say, I never want to see their face again, because when I look at them, I get so agitated. You ever have that experience? For the big offense of what did they do? They looked at you the wrong way, or they said the wrong thing, or they were nice to your boyfriend, or something, something really serious, right? Right? And I'm never going to look at them again. I think this passed most of us by. Ambarish Maharaj was serving breakfast to the person that half an hour ago tried to kill him. Try that one at home. See how that works. Could you do it? Half hour ago, I tried to kill you. And I'm hungry. I'm ready for breakfast. Are you in a good state of mind to serve me breakfast? So these amazing examples are there in the Bhagavatam, and I think because we don't dramatize them, they shoot over it. We don't realize what's going on this emotional level. How amazing that is that you could serve breakfast to someone who a half hour earlier or 10 minutes earlier tried to chop your head off.
Quite interesting to do that Durvasa Muni still wants to be served by Ambarish Maharaj.
Yeah. It makes it even more, and Ambarish Maharaj is okay with it.
You want to be served? Are you out of your mind? You're trying to kill me. Get out of here. I don't want to see you. Don't ever come back. If you do, I'll call the police. Right? And if you did that, everyone would say, yeah, you told them off. Yeah. Right? They'd be patting you on the back. And the Bhagavatam has the complete opposite. So there's a lot in there that we're missing. Right?
Can cartoons capture emotions?
What's that?
Can cartoons capture emotions like?
Prabhupada didn't like cartoons. He didn't like them because he said people won't take it seriously. Obviously easier to make. I mean, maybe for kids, but they were going to do cartoons, and he said people won't, they already think Krishna is mythical. So they do cartoons, it makes it more. I mean, of course, when we're pure devotees, we'll see the pastime in our heart. But it'd be nice if we can help everyone see them. Wow, what about Devahuti and Kardama? You imagine Devahuti's like, 40 kilos. Starts at like 55, down to 40, 35 kilos, serving her husband, eating leaves. Wow, what a life. And Kardama's doing his tapasya. And then Kardama feels sorry. And he switches everything around, makes this beautiful airplane mansion. All of a sudden she becomes beautiful. Wow, what a movie. Right? And you have two examples in that. Did you know what examples you have? You have an example of a wife who will do the austerity of her husband, and it's so difficult for her. Prabhupada said a woman's favorite activity is to comb her hair. And she had dreadlocks, because there's no combs out in the forest. Eating whatever. Women like nice clothes, nice food, and so on. Nice home, and she had none of them. And she did the austerity her husband did. And what did he do? He understood her mentality, how difficult it was. He created a mansion in the air for her, a palace in the air, out of his mystic power to satisfy her. So you have these examples. Wife satisfying husband, husband satisfying wife, right? Did you ever pick up on that? The guys only picked up on the wife serving the husband, and the girls only picked up on the husband serving the wife. That's what usually happens. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, we were discussing that aparad, we have the English word offense, but actually what aparad means is we're doing something that's hurting the heart of Krishna. It's actually, we say offense. Who's the offense to? Ultimately, the offense is to Krishna, right? It's not like aparad is just an offense and it flies around in the air. And it's like you shoot a bullet and it doesn't land on anybody. The offense is to Krishna. It hurts Krishna. Isn't that interesting? Did you ever think of that? We have the power to hurt the heart of Krishna by committing one of the 10 offenses. That's what it is. Yes. Oh, yeah. I didn't want to do my sweater. Let's try it again. I can figure it out. I'm smart. Don't worry. That's good. Naamapradha is directly an offense against Krishna. It is so serious that once when Mahaprabhu was explaining the glories of the holy name, you remember this story? A student said, these are exaggerations. This is the 5th and 6th offense to the holy name. That you think what the Shastra describes as the glory of the holy name is not true. It's either an exaggeration or it's just an imagination. It's not true at all. And, some people think that way. I think that, traditionally, if you want to make spiritual advancement, you have to do meditation, you have to do austerity, yoga, you have to do so many things. And you don't get a big result even after years and years of doing that. And the Shastra's saying, this one Hare Krishna, like, all your karma's finished. Like, that sounds like an exaggeration, doesn't it? The Shastras say, if you give 1,000,000 cows in charity, that's like a fraction of you'll get the fraction of the benefit you'll get by chanting one Hare Krishna. That sounds like an exaggeration, doesn't it? If you live on the confluence of the banks of the Ganges and Jamuna and do tapasya for thousands of years, you won't get the same benefit as Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. That can't be true. It's impossible. It seems impossible, right? Does it make sense? So Mahaprabhu was explaining these glories, and then this person heard it. And he said, these are exaggerations. And what did Lord Chaitanya do? Who remembers the story? He immediately jumped in the Ganga with his clothes on and told everyone, any of you who have seen the face of this person, you have to bathe and become purified, because that's an offense to the holy name. It's the fifth and sixth offense. It's actually one offense, but it's been divided into two. To interpret the holy name to be something different from what the sadhus and the scriptures say it is. They say it's Krishna, and they describe its glories in many ways. And if we don't believe it, or we say it's something else, or we say it's an exaggeration, that's an offense to the holy name. And the holy name is who? Who is the holy name? So then it's offense to Krishna. No, the Shastra says this and that, but Krishna, you're not really like that. Your holy name really can't do that. That's the offense. Yeah, Krishna, you're not really in your name. It can't be. It's just not possible. That's an offense. Have you ever said that? I just don't understand how Krishna is in his name. We've all said that. Not because we don't believe it, because we don't experience it. But not experiencing it can lead in some subtle way to making that offense. One devotee, I don't know if he's a devotee, you can judge by what he said. He said, I am so impure that if I chant the holy name, I'll make the holy name impure. What do you think of that? I think that's the fifth and sixth offense, right? But I think many of us have said something similar, haven't we? I know the holy name's pure, but somehow it doesn't seem to be working so well on me. So we have some lack of faith. Yes?
So there's 7 indirect rasas, one of them is guessing.
Yes.
So in the mood of guessiness, one can think that I'm so impure that I'm incapable of approaching Krishna. Isn't that very similar to what?
No, yeah, it could be, but you, in your humility, you wouldn't say something that's against the Shastra. So this devotee is saying something that's, he wasn't humble, he was just foolish.
Well, Krishnadas Kaviraj in Chaitanya Charitamrita says that he's lower than a worm in stool.
Yeah.
But that's obviously not true because he's
Well,
a devotee. He's
okay, so he says he's lower than a worm in stool. So then we go and we study. Okay, what is humility? And we go, here it is. He's got it. Because that's how he feels. And how did he get to that feeling? By chanting the pure holy name. And getting purified by it. Otherwise he wouldn't feel that way. So, what the Shastra says is that when you achieve prema, at that point, inconceivable to us, you feel like everyone in the world is better than you. Like you're on the bottom of the pile. of the universe. That's how you feel. That doesn't make sense logically, does it? You think, wow, if I had love of God, I'd feel pretty good. I wouldn't feel like a worm in stool.
But even if someone feels that way, to actually say it, and especially to put it in writing, it seems counter to the Shastra. Because Shastra says that devotee is the greatest. Of course,
Yeah.
he doesn't feel like a devotee.
No, well, you have two things. You have rasa and you have tattva. So, like, the tattva is what you said, but his rasa with Krishna is that I feel like a worm in stool. And so from our perspective, we look at the tattva, the truth of it, is that this is a sign of pure love of God. But from him, in his relationship with Krishna, he feels, I don't have love of God. Which to us is a sign that he has it. Because we understand it through, academically. These are all signs of love of God, that you think you don't have it, you feel humble. And saying I'm lower than a worm in stool is actually an ecstasy, believe it or not. It's a form of kind of, extreme humility, emotional response. And, yes.
He would never say that because he's so low, he would contaminate the holy name, which would be...
Yeah, he wouldn't say that.
Which would be offensive. to the holy name.
But let's say he did say it. Because he said, anyone chants my name will...
His name, holy name.
Krishna Das. Copyright. But it's different when he says it than the conditioned soul saying it. Because conditioned soul saying it is an excuse not to chant. It's an excuse to commit Naamapradha or to stop chanting. And it's philosophically incorrect. If Krishnadas Kaviraj says it out of ecstasy, he's not making a philosophical statement. It's an emotion. So we have to distinguish that. Like, for example, Krishna's God, that's the tattva. But in rasa and relationships, everything's different. You don't, how you explain it from a theological point of view and how you explain it from a relational point of view are different. They're different relationships and different points of view. So, from tattva or theology, God knows everything. But from rasa, Krishna forgets. And the devotees forget. So you have to see how you're looking at it. Yes?
So how do we know that this silly statement by the person that
Wasn't love of God?
isn't just rasa, and it's not, it's in that.
Because he stopped chanting after he said it. That's how we know. Or he stopped chanting before he said it. You have to know by the symptoms.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying is that was the excuse he was making for not chanting.
Yeah.
I can't chant because I'll
Yeah.
be chanting.
Or maybe it was the excuse he was making for not chanting well. Like, what's the use of chanting? Because I'll contaminate the holy name. No, you cannot contaminate the holy name. That's philosophically incorrect. Holy name is always pure. You can cover it by your aparad, by your offense, so that the name doesn't manifest. So, yeah. So if it's coming out of ecstasy, it's one thing. But if it's coming from a conditioned soul, then we have to see if it's philosophically correct. And if it's not, then like we can say he's making an excuse, a rationale for giving up on his chanting or not chanting properly. And it's also, that would also be the offense of to not have complete faith in the chanting, because now he's lost his faith in the power of the holy name, saying the holy name cannot purify me, in fact I can contaminate it. So, and then he's making the offense of blaspheming Vedic literature, because Vedic literature doesn't say that. So he's got a triple header there.
It seems like committing offenses to the holy name is like a domino effect.
Yeah. And it's a good thing we brought this up, because it shows that what we may not think to be obvious as an offense, if you dig deeper, you see all these offenses, lack of faith has its ramifications in other offenses. Because if you lack faith, then you're going to interpret, you're going to think it's exaggeration, you're going to, as we said, you're not going to believe the statements of Shastra, so you'll maybe subtly criticize Shastra. And then we said another offense, which is quite interesting, is to not have love for the holy name. So he doesn't sound like he has love for the holy name. Sounds like he's having trouble with it. That's also an offense. But if you look at the 10 offenses, you'll see lack of faith is intertwined in many of those offenses. Number 3, lack of faith in the Guru. Number 2, part of the second offense is to not believe that Krishna is in his name. You know, we think it's just equating the demigods. The offenses is material desire. Because that's preventing the pure chanting. Because it's to offend Krishna. Otherwise, why would he jump in the Ganga? So I've seen someone who's offended Krishna and I've become impure. You know what Prabhupada once said? He said, don't look at news magazines. Because if you look at news magazines, you will see the faces of the politicians. And you'll actually become contaminated. Because they're you know, if you're around someone who's pure, you become purified. Around someone who's not pure, you become affected. And he said just by seeing the face of someone who's impure, you can be affected by it. Isn't that interesting? I mean, we don't want to be fanatic and whatever, but we've all experienced that sometimes. Just being around someone and we felt this person's heart is not pure and I can feel that. Or this person's heart is pure, I can feel that. Then in the scripture it says that for spiritual advancement, the best thing you can do is associate with people who are spiritually advanced, and the worst thing you can do is associate people who are materially attached. Because you get infected by either one. I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said. He said, what happens in Seva Aparad is there's a little sprout of offense starting to grow. But because you're engaged in service, it doesn't grow. But what the Shastra says, you might say, well, what about offending a Vaishnava? Well, that's offending the name. So that's very destructive. I mean, if we take one thing away from this class, this whole week, it should be that offending the holy name is way more detrimental and serious than we ever thought. And it takes a lot to overcome it. So what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, if you commit seva aparad, it's not that serious, and as you continue doing your service, that little sprout of offense won't grow. He said, but when you commit Naamapradha, the result of Naamapradha is it goes much deeper and it starts to produce anarthas. That's the problem, which is what Bhaktisiddhanta said something, and it's true, and it's not a happy thought, but he said your chanting may produce obstacles, may produce weeds in your heart rather than flowers, if it's not done properly. Aparad, yeah. That's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's kind of a scary thought, because we would think, well, if I just chant, it'll always be beneficial. But if you don't chant properly, it could create obstacles to your bhakti. Interesting, isn't it? So, what would be a symptom of not chanting properly? We're not really progressing spiritually. We're not becoming free of our envy, of our greed, our lust, or we're not becoming free of attachments that are impeding our devotional service. Things are staying the same. Because if the holy name's chanted properly, those things will reduce. That's how we know. Like Prabhupada once said, you should test yourself to see, by symptoms, are you progressing spiritually? And these are some of the symptoms. Detachment being one of them. You lose interest in a lot of material things when you become Krishna conscious. Like guys, you know how you make advancement when it's the day of the World Cup and you don't want to watch it. And you're like, okay, you've chanted some good rounds that year. Yeah. isn't it? I'm not interested in soccer, but I've heard on that day, for many men, it's like, okay, the world stops. We're watching this. This is like big. So if you do that every year, and 1 year you lose interest, that was a good year for japa. Or whatever it is you're attached to, you'll know if you're no longer attached to it. If it's something, it's not really beneficial for you, then that must have been a good year for japa. Because I'm not interested. I don't really care if I see it. There was a big cricket match. One weekend when I did a workshop, and people during the breaks were like checking it out. It is said that we've all offended Krishna. That's how we came here. And it's very difficult to overcome an offense. Like we said yesterday, day before, sin is not a big problem, but an offense directly to Krishna or to devotee, it penetrates the heart and becomes very detrimental for our spiritual advancement. So it's said that the holy name is more merciful than Krishna, because Krishna personally does not forgive the offense, but the holy name forgives it. So if I've offended Krishna and Krishna says, here, take my name, and then I offend the name, we can understand it's pretty serious. So I think for us, probably one of the major obstacles is apathy. We just don't care. If you want to do something very revealing, record your japa for about 15 minutes. Just put the phone on record, and forget that it's on, and just chant. And then listen to your chanting, not to hear the pronunciation, not to hear if you're skipping 31 syllables or 33 syllables, not for that, but just to feel the mood of your chanting. It's a very interesting exercise. I can't say what's going to happen, but I've done it. And unbeknown to me, when I played the recording back, I heard apathy. That's how I was chanting. And I didn't know I was apathetic until I heard the recording. It just sounded like I didn't care. And once you don't care about Krishna consciousness, who cares? It's Maya. That's a flag. Maya, I'm over here. I don't care about Krishna. Okay, I'll be right there. I'll take care of you. I have plans for you. Yes? So, if we're just not apathetic, if we just make an effort, that is the threshold between offensive and non-offensive. That I care. I care about my relationship, I care about my spiritual advancement, I care to make progress, and therefore I care to chant properly, as best I can. But if we enter this mood, I'm so fallen, what's the use of trying, etc., etc., it's really just an excuse to be apathetic. I can't concentrate, I tried. One of the most amazing things that Prabhupada said, this is so powerful, and I think what he said is so important for us. One devotee had this problem, and so they were having difficulty following their vows. And the devotees had talked to him, and they analyzed that he was sincere, but he was just very weak spiritually. So they told Prabhupada he's having trouble because he's spiritually weak. And Prabhupada said something that if you can remember this, I think it will help you so much in your life. Prabhupada immediately, without missing a beat, he said, why are you giving into weakness? In other words, that was an excuse. And as soon as Prabhupada heard the excuse, he was saying basically something like, if you want to be Krishna conscious, why are you giving into excuses? Because we give into excuses quite easily, don't we? Because it makes us feel good. I know I'm a failure, but if I just could have an excuse to explain why I'm a failure, then I wouldn't feel so depressed. Isn't it? So you think of a good excuse. It's my mother. Yeah, she was really bad on me. That's why I don't chant good rounds. Yeah, that's it. It's my mother. No, I feel good. Isn't it? Yes? Or it's whatever. I've done many bad things before I was a devotee, and that's why it's hard for me. So Prabhupada's point was not that it's not hard for you. That wasn't his point at all. Not that you didn't do things in the past, or maybe your mother wasn't a good mother, or maybe you did a lot of things that are affecting you now. But his point is, why are you allowing that to be an excuse to not follow your vows? You understand? So I think that's very important for us, because if we do that, we become apathetic, and then we kind of convince ourselves we can't chant well, and then we don't try. Because why would we need to try to achieve something which we've convinced ourselves we can't achieve? So we're kind of satisfied chanting bad rounds in the belief that this is the best I can do. You understand? And so Prabhupada's saying, if you want to achieve Krishna consciousness, you wouldn't think that way. Because that would defeat you. That's automatically you'll be defeated. That was his point. You like that point? He's like saying, why are you thinking like that? If you want to be Krishna conscious, why would you think that? You wouldn't. Would you? Does that make sense? Yes.
So sometimes, somehow, we found ourselves in the Krishna conscious movement. We chant, we serve, and then we realize, I don't want to be Krishna conscious. But then you hear it, you're kind of stuck to it. So
I don't want to be in Maya, and I don't want to be Krishna conscious. Yeah. Didn't the Beatles sing a song about that? Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Floating downstream, merge in Brahman. Whoa, yeah. That's why we have Prabhupada's books. Because that is a normal position for a conditioned soul. He understands his predicament, but the desire or to do the austerity that's necessary to get out of the predicament may not be there. So now you're like, I don't want to go back, but it's so hard to go forward. But if I go back, I've already come from there and I know that's not what I want. But if I look forward, then I'm not finding the inspiration or the desire. So we go to Prabhupada's books, and Prabhupada starts explaining our constitutional position, the fact that we've been in the world for millions of lifetimes. It's not going to work. Krishna's waiting for us. There's a relationship. This is where the nectar is, so on and so forth, to try to give us a little clarity and a little inspiration. And when you take those books away, it's really hard. That's my experience in my own life and the lives of other devotees that I've seen. So seeing that, then I felt that Prabhupada really understood that his books were crucial to our spiritual life, because they would give us that little bit of clarity that we need to push forward to do that austerity. They would give us that inspiration that we may not always have because we're not yet pure. And with that there, then there's some force pulling us. Otherwise, we're pushing ourselves. That's hard. We want this force, the power in front of us to pull us. You just have to push yourself. That's hard. So Prabhupada's teachings will pull us. And of course, the teachings of other devotees, they'll pull us. And that's why hearing is pretty much a regular necessity. It keeps the intelligence clear. I'll tell you a nice story. I love this story. It's about inspiration. And inspiration comes from why, from being connected to why you're doing something. Like, why did you become a devotee? That's where your inspiration comes. Like the very meaning. Why do you want to be Krishna conscious? What inspired you to become Krishna conscious? What was the why? We all had a why, right? The why is why something happens is the inspiration. Why do you exist as a devotee? What is that one thing? So, I don't know if you know the story, but Steve Jobs was, I don't know, what do you call them? Obsessive, yeah, something, you know, the psychologists will have a name for him, but he drove everybody crazy because he was, you know, like, he designed something, he'd go, give me 100 shades of beige, I want to pick the one I like, you know, or this one is 100,000th centimeter too thick, make it thinner, you know, like that, just everything had to be perfect, which was, you know, good, but it went too far and he drove people crazy. And the company that he started, when it went public, he wasn't in charge of the company, so the company, the chairman of the company, kicked him out of the company that he founded because it went public, so he didn't own it. Isn't that heavy? You start a company, it's becoming successful, and the board of directors fires you from your own company, right? And so the company was on its way to bankruptcy. I don't know how many years it took. And Steve Jobs got a call and said, can you come back? Because the company's not working. And he gave a speech, it might have been in 1983. He gave a speech and he made a very important point. He said, the reason that Apple failed when I left is because nobody understood why it was created. You lost the why, and the why was the motive. He said, I created Apple to create products that would make a dent in the world, that would change the way people live and think. When I left, you just made it an electronics company. You were selling cables and printers and screens and the same things that Dell and HP and everyone else sells. So it was a Me Too company, and we had no competitive edge. He said, when I came back, we had 130 products. I eliminated 126, and we only had 4 products, or 5. The Mac, iMac, the MacBook, the iPhone, and the iPod. I don't know if the iPad had come out yet, but he said, those are the only 4 products we need, because I created this company to create products that would change the way people live. And all those products changed the way people live, especially the iPod. When the iPod came out, it kind of toppled the record industry because they couldn't dominate it anymore. And then the iPad, that was like, you know, and what speak of the iPhone, that totally screwed us up. Now we're completely messed up, completely addicted to our phones. I'm only kidding. It's only half true. It is half true. But his point was, we lost the why. And now we've reconnected to the why, and now that we've reconnected to the why, that's where the inspiration is. So Prabhupada's books connect you to the why, and it makes you remember why you want to be Krishna conscious, because we forget. And if Maya can help you forget why, you're pretty much a sitting duck. And if you remember the why, there's impetus and you keep moving. And so, you see, the thing is, we have to do some austerity to advance spiritually. And so there has to be some why. You know, like, why would you want to get up so early when you could sleep later? You know, how many times have you gotten up in the morning and you were still tired? And you know your body could easily have slept another half hour, 2 hours sometimes. Yeah, a lot of times. Why do you get up? There's a motive to make spiritual advancement, and therefore a willingness to sacrifice some bodily comfort to do it. But when you don't get up, why don't you get up when you should? Because the why is weakened. The frequency on the why has been turned down. If the frequency on the why is turned up, it's easier. That's why when people come to Mayapur, they say, oh, it's so much easier here. And then after living in Mayapur, you think, hey, I'm going back to the West. I'm on fire. You know, in 3 weeks, the fire's out. That's pretty typical. Yeah. If you're a good devotee, you'll get a little extension period. You know. I don't want to depress you. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but you understand the idea, right? But here, the why is, in the Holy Dham, the why is stronger. So it's so easy to chant, to get up, to do austerity, walk barefoot, do parikrama, go in the Ganga, it's cold, whatever. Isn't it? So we don't want to lose the why. And the same thing with chanting. Like what we're trying to do here is connect you with the why. Because if you're connected with the why, what happens? The apathy leaves. And when there's less apathy, there's less offense. Because all the offenses ultimately are founded in apathy. Prabhu, you're making offense to holy name. Yeah, I know. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Yeah, I know. How many rounds have you chanted in your life knowing you're not chanting properly and you just keep chanting? If you've done one, that's one too many, right? And so that's the problem, we know. So when there's inspiration, it pushes through the I know to, okay, I'm going to do it. And then it pushes through the apathy. Because apathy is the big enemy. For anything, spiritually or anything you want to achieve materially. You tell a kid, you shouldn't eat white flour and sugar. It's not good for you. And what do they say? I know, but it tastes good. Right? So, there's not enough impetus to conquer over the fact that they love the taste. Right? And so you get older, you start going on the internet, you start reading about white flour, white sugar, this and that, how bad it is. Right? And then you look at that, and go, no, I'm not going to eat it. You have impetus. It's my favorite food. I love white bread. I grew up on white bread. And I'm not going to eat it. But what happens when you one day slip and eat it? What do you say? It's only once in a while. Who cares? There's some apathy there, isn't it? I don't care. So those are Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words. Apathy is an aspect of inattention. Laziness, which then becomes a byproduct of apathy. And distraction. Well, if you're apathetic, you'll be distracted. Right? It's pretty difficult to control the mind, isn't it? You can't be apathetic and control your mind. It takes work. Right? Yes.
See, that's the only way to find enthusiastic association. Otherwise, it's very difficult to let yourself out.
Enthusiastic association and read about the glories of the holy name. We have a lot of books about the glories of the holy name. Go more deeply.
But you will not even feel empathy if you will not.
Yeah, without good association, you won't care. So what Dagaranga is saying is, you could run into this problem where the I know but problem. You get information, but you don't. The apathy is so strong, you don't act on it. So good association helps. This I know but. That's the mode of ignorance. Because in the mode of ignorance, you can't do what you think you should do. That's the description of mode of ignorance. You can think about it, but you can't get the willpower to do it. Yeah, I probably should get off the couch, stop watching television, stop eating potato chips. Yeah, I probably should, shouldn't I? That's a good idea. Maybe someday I'll do it. That's the description of mode of ignorance. You conceptualize it, you understand it, but you actually can't do it. And there's one great teacher who very insightfully said, lazy people are not necessarily lazy. They just don't have anything that's inspiring them. That's why they're lazy. So you might say, I'm lazy, but you might want to ask, is it that I'm just not inspired? And I have to find what inspires me. So we're trying to inspire you to chant. Because if you're inspired, the apathy will decrease, and then you'll start to overcome the offenses, which we discussed yesterday. The offenses are just covering the pure name, so we're not experiencing it purely. Right? We're experiencing it from a distance. It's taken a long time to read these. All right, let me read a few more things. Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's spiritual master, says that we have to guard against offenses because we are full of mundane impressions. So naturally the mind dwells on things other than Krishna. Even if we commit severe offenses in many ways, we are freed from these offenses by chanting. But if we offend the holy name, there is no hope. So, you come to spiritual life and you want to take to it, and like Gopal's saying, you come to a point and you realize, whoa, I'm pretty conditioned. I don't realize how conditioned I was. Right? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, we have to realize that we're conditioned and it's going to require some effort. And the holy name is our hope to overcome the conditioning, but if we make offense, then we have no hope to overcome the conditioning, because the very thing that's going to help us overcome the conditioning, we're not taking it properly. So then it's like a don't live, don't die. Right? It's like, okay, I'm fallen, but here's the holy name, it can cure me. But then I don't take the cure properly, then I don't get the result, then I just become more depressed. So he's saying, okay, we're conditioned. So if you understand that, then you realize that you have to take the holy name properly, because it will cure you. That's the thing that's going to cure you. So. Any questions? Comments? Oh yeah. Radhika has a question. Where are you? You want to ask your question? She asked me a question today, and then I said, well, ask it publicly. You feel like asking it or no? Is it appropriate to what we're talking about?
Well, I want to get the answers.
Okay.
So the question is about enjoying the holy name.
Oh, enjoying. Yes, this is a great question. Enjoying the holy name.
Yeah, versus feeling guilty for enjoying.
Versus feeling guilty for enjoying the holy name. So she's trying to clarify the word enjoyment, because the word enjoyment has a connotation of self-centeredness, that I'm enjoying something. That's material consciousness. And then we have heard about enjoying in Krishna consciousness, enjoying chanting. One time we had a festival. We told Prabhupada about the festival, and then his response was, I hope you enjoyed the festival. That dirty word. Prabhupada even used it. The enjoyment. That's what got us in the material world, and now we're talking about enjoyment spiritually. And then enjoyment versus, what was the feeling guilty about enjoying? Yeah. But if you thought that way, guilty about enjoying, then you're going to chant your rounds and you're going to pray, Krishna, I'm not going to enjoy this. Even if you make it enjoyable, I'm not going to enjoy it because I'm not the enjoyer. But the connotation of enjoyer comes from enjoying the senses, material senses, separated from Krishna. The concept of spiritual enjoyment is attraction to the pleasure we get from being connected to Krishna, which is not enjoying the material senses. So material enjoyment, material senses, spiritual enjoyment. You cannot actually enjoy spiritually unless your senses are purified. So that would solve the paradox, because if you're enjoying, it's only because your senses are purified of the desire to enjoy. That's the only way you can enjoy. So that means if you're enjoying, you've hit the jackpot. And you don't have to feel guilty because you've overcome the selfishness that would prevent you from enjoying. I'll tell you a story. Okay. When I became a devotee, people were chanting Hare Krishna because they wanted to get high. It was a lot cheaper than drugs, and you couldn't get arrested. So it had, and actually devotees used to say that's how they used to preach. But no, that was Allen Ginsberg. He said, chant Hare Krishna, non-bustable by the fuzz. The fuzz was the name of the police in those days. Non-bustable by the fuzz. What else? He had something, it's cheaper like that. He had all these, So in my generation, a lot of people were chanting to get high, and everybody was taking drugs to get high. So, naturally, I felt the same way. Chant Hare Krishna, I'm really high, so, this is good. So it's very personal, right? Personally motivated. And then I moved into the ashram, and I started hearing classes which said you shouldn't chant for your own enjoyment. You should chant to please Krishna. So it took me a while to reorient my consciousness. The first time I fully relished the holy name was when I finally got it, and I went out that day and I chanted for Krishna's pleasure, not mine. That's when I actually tasted it. I remember to this day, with my first experience, real experience with the holy name, was that day when I finally shifted from trying to be happy chanting to try to please Krishna by chanting, and then I was so happy. So to me, enjoying, it was clear, because I completely got myself out of the mood of enjoyer, and then I could actually let Krishna give me the nectar. Right? Does that make sense? And it's a sign that you're advancing. So it's a good sign. Now, if you're enjoying in a false ego way, look at me, I'm a great devotee. Yeah, then you're enjoying your material senses. But if Krishna, like sometimes you're chanting and Krishna's giving you a taste, that's a gift. So why wouldn't you accept it? Why would you think that's material enjoyment? It's just coming to you. We were saying yesterday, Prabhupada liked to see devotees dance. He liked to see devotees happy. In fact, maybe you know the story, maybe I told you. Prabhupada had a servant, and the servant was depressed. I don't know, you might think, having a servant, that sounds like fun. You have to live with this guy. This guy is depressed. It's not fun to be around him. Prabhu, can you bring my sweater? Okay. Do I have to do it now? Seriously, it's, if you're going to have somebody serve you, they can't be like that. And he was like that. He was always, Prabhupada once, he said, go in the closet and close the door because I don't want to see your face. You're so depressed. It's depressing me. So, Prabhupada liked to see the happy faces of devotees because that was a sign that they were Krishna conscious. It's a sign they were Krishna conscious. So he liked that. So if you're happy in Krishna consciousness, that makes Krishna happy and that makes Prabhupada happy. And if you're not happy in Krishna consciousness, it makes them unhappy. So as long as your happiness in Krishna consciousness means we don't have the mentality that we're the enjoyer or we're the controller or we're the owner. We have the mentality that I'm the servant. And if I experience the happiness of service, the happiness of being humble, then that's glorious. And you should take as much of that as you can because it'll help you. And that happiness detaches you from the desire to enjoy materially. Right? That's the whole point. The spiritual happiness is wanted because it purifies you of the desire to enjoy material happiness. Yes? You all agree? And actually, it's a symptom of advancement that you're enjoying Krishna consciousness. You know that many times when Prabhupada first came to a temple, they would have a greeting ceremony, and the Prabhupada would come in the temple, or he would come in an airport, and he would sit down, and all the devotees would be there, and he would greet them. And many, many times, he would ask one question. Who knows the question he would ask? Who knows? Yeah. Is everybody happy? No, Prabhupada, we're really miserable. This chanting is really hard. I have to get up so early. I think that's what everyone said. No problem, I'm feeling really guilty, It's like so many conditioned souls, they don't have Krishna consciousness. I have it, I'm feeling like I just don't feel good. This happiness is making me feel really miserable. You imagine what would Prabhupada say if someone said that? He'd be like, what's she saying? You have no idea what you're talking about. So of course, when Prabhupada said, you know what I mean? When Prabhupada said, is everyone happy? Everyone said, Jai Prabhupada! Of course. And that made Prabhupada so happy. Because one of Prabhupada's inner motives in spreading Krishna consciousness was to make people happy. And sometimes he would say that, I just want you to be happy. There was one boy, he said, early days, one of the first people, he said, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. You know, I'm leaving. I can't do it. Prabhupada was rubbing his head. He said, I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be happy. That's all. So if you're happy, Prabhupada's happy. And if you're all like, well, I don't know if I should be happy, because, you know, maybe that's like I'm a sense enjoyer if I'm happy. No. If it's coming from Krishna consciousness, celebrate it. That's a gift. Relish it, use it, and share it. You know, how about this thought? One of the greatest gifts you can share with the world is your happiness in Krishna consciousness. What about that? You like that? Yes.
If someone's not happy, should a person leave?
If someone's not happy, should they leave Krishna? No, they should eat more gulab jamuns. That should solve the problem. Anyone says, Prabhu, I'm depressed, what should I do? More gulab jamuns. You know. You'll get enough sugar, you won't be depressed anymore. At least for a few hours you'll be okay. If you're not happy, then you should find a service that makes you happy, and a place that makes you happy, and devotees that make you happy, and prasadam that makes you happy. Yeah, you want to somehow find happiness in Krishna consciousness, so you don't have to look for it anywhere else. So, here's something really funny but sad. So let's say, you know, your rounds have not been very good for a few years. And you're telling people, chant Hare Krishna, it'll make you happy. And for you, chanting is like really difficult. And you're struggling to get your rounds done, and it doesn't make you happy. Now, how much power are you going to communicate? Oh, chant this mantra, it's really good, you know. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh no, they're going to start chanting and become depressed like me. We have to do a new card. Chant and become depressed. This chant and be happy. I don't know about it. It's true. I hate to be so blunt, but you know what I'm saying, right? That if you're not convinced, and then you're telling people to do it, in the back of your mind you're thinking, you're telling them chant Hare Krishna, you're thinking, I don't know if you really want to do this, because, you know, I'm pretty psychotic right now. And I've given up material and I don't have the spiritual, and you know, you're going to end up in the same place. But if you're happy in Krishna consciousness, you give them the mantra card and tell them to chant, they're like, wow, I'm going to try this. You're blissful. Isn't it? You imagine, you bring a new person in the temple, everyone's chanting their rounds. Krishna, you know, like nobody looks blissful, and you bring in a guest. And you should chant Hare Krishna, it'll make you happy, and they look at everybody. No, you guys don't look happy. It's not going to work. You can't say something unless you are what you're saying, right? So, one of the greatest gifts we can offer the world is to be happy in Krishna consciousness, because you can say you'll be happy, but if they see that you're happy, that inspires them, right? So, is that okay? It's all right. You're all right now with being happy and enjoying. It's okay. Yes.
Is it possible to be happy by chanting from the very beginning?
Yes. She asked a very good question. Is it possible to be chanting and be happy from the beginning? Meaning, in the beginning, you're on a very low stage. Yes, you're happy because there's a saying, when you're on the way to achieve your goal, enjoy the ride. So Krishna consciousness is enjoyable, but if we think, well, I'm down here and the goal's up here, then we become unhappy. because we're now thinking I'm so distant from the goal and I'm so full of contamination. But if we think it's a joyride, that anywhere on the way to Krishna consciousness is joyful, so let me enjoy the ride as best I can. That's the attitude. And also, we have so many songs where acharyas are like, when will I get there? When will I get there? But it's a happiness. Like, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. You know that feeling? I'm going to Mayapur in 3 weeks. I can't wait. And now I'm in the snow. I've got a miserable job, a miserable husband, a miserable child. Everything's miserable, but I'm going to Mayapur. I can't wait. And I'm really happy. So a little bit like that. That we're excited about the goal. So even though I'm down, I can still be excited about it. Is that?
What about when we have our anarthas come up?
Yeah, okay, a good question. So how to be excited about your anarthas? When you see all the things that are wrong with you, when they come out. It's also a good question. I'm going to give you a really gross example. We'll take a break after this example because you'll have to recuperate. Okay, so once I did a cleanse. It was pretty intense. And in the book, it's a cleanse where you're taking psyllium and you're fasting and you're taking all these potions. And it's to clean your intestine. And so when stuff comes out and starts to look like the intestine, and they're like, yeah, you're getting, so they have pictures of what it's supposed to look like. And, day 1, day 2. And so, you want to check that you're doing the cleanse right. So when you do your thing, you look at it to see, is it working right? And if you get a big one and a long one and it looks like your intestine, and you're like, yeah, it's working, you're pretty excited. Gross example, right? So you're chanting, and some big one comes out, like, I'm so envious. I think I'm the best devotee. And you're like, wow, the chanting has brought it out. And why are you excited about it? Because it was there and I never knew it. I thought I was like Mrs. Sweetie Pie. I thought I was the sweetest woman on this side of the higher planets. And now I'm chanting Hare Krishna and I realize I'm pretty envious. You're like, yes, it works. It's coming out. Look at that big one. That's how you're supposed to take it. That it's moving up and out. Don't be depressed. Be excited. Celebrate. It's coming out. So the thing to realize is when it comes out, we all think, like, where was that? We think like the Holy Name put it in. No, the Holy Name didn't put it in. It was there. You just didn't see it. The Holy Name has allowed you to see it. So that's good. Now you're being introspective. You thought you were, really, really super. And now you realize you're not as super as you thought. So you're becoming humble and introspective. So you're supposed to celebrate when you see the fall, because it means you're progressing. Easier said than done, right? Anyway, see if you can do it. When you see a fault, try to celebrate. Well, I'm seeing it. You know the story. 2 disciples go to Bhakti Siddhanta and they say, Guru Maharaj, we've been chanting for 20 years and we're like useless. We don't have any taste, we're not good devotees, we're proud, etc., etc. And what does Srila Bhakti Siddhanta say? Who knows the story? Very good. Very happy to hear that. They're completely bewildered. Why are you happy to hear that? He said, because I can see you're making advancement. That you don't think you're making advancement. He said, if you came to me and said, Guru Maharaj, I've been chanting 20 years and I'm making advancement. I'm like, I think I'm almost there. He said, I would be very worried about you, that you're becoming overcome by ego. So if you see some anartha, hey, that's good. Give yourself a pat on the back. That was a big one. That was a big one. Just like the book says, jealousy, envy, greed, it's all there. Envy, it came out. Wow. Feeling better already. This comes out, let it go. Flush it down the toilet. Right? Sorry for the example. Okay, so on that happy note, we're going to take a break. And then I'm going to go downstairs for a bit. Or take a little break, and then you can ask more questions, and then we'll have kirtan. Is that okay? Okay, so I'm just going to go to the bathroom, and I'll be back in a bit. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari.